I orchestrated the whole thing from that first drunken night. People assume I'm the victim here, another woman manipulated into a man's revenge fantasy. The truth is I whispered the idea into Marcus's mind like a virus I knew would consume him. I told him I could sleep with his enemy, destroy the man who ruined his life, and make everything right again. What nobody grasps is that I wasn't trying to hurt Marcus, I was trying to become indispensable to him. I thought if I offered this one terrible gift, this weapon forged from my body, he'd finally see me as essential instead of disposable. Instead, I became the blade he used to cut himself apart. And the detail that will make you despise me, I documented everything. Every conversation, every text, every moment he helped me select the perfect dress for Adrian's destruction. I have proof of what he asked me to do. But the worst part isn't his request, it's why I was so desperate to fulfill it. Section 1, Sympathetic Setup, 330 words. I met Marcus at the lowest point in my life, when my self-worth was measured in how well I could disappear. I'd just been laid off from the gallery, my lease was up, and my mother had stopped asking when I was getting married because she'd given up on me entirely. Marcus appeared at a friend's cocktail party like a solution to a problem I hadn't named yet, tall, with that particular kind of wounded confidence that makes a man seem profound instead of broken. He didn't talk about Adrian that first night. He talked about art and loss, about how his father had built an empire only to die before seeing Marcus run it. I listened, rapt, as he described watching everything he'd been promised evaporate. The next morning, he texted, "You make me feel like myself again." For 3 years, I existed in Adrian's shadow without knowing his name. Marcus would wake from nightmares, drenched in sweat, muttering about betrayal. He'd scroll through photos on his phone, always stopping on one face, before quickly closing the screen. His hands trembled whenever a cert area code appeared on caller ID. I found old business cards tucked in his wallet. Adrian Vance, CEO, with Marcus's title Vice President crossed out in red ink. The small decision came during a fight about our future. Marcus was drunk, staring at that photo again. "I wish someone would make him pay," he slurred. I said it without thinking I could seduce him. Destroy his perfect life like he destroyed yours. Marcus went very still. "You'd do that for me," he whispered. I should have seen the calculation in his eyes. I only saw the possibility of finally mattering. Section 2, Escalation with dramatic irony, 450 words. I didn't expect him to take me seriously. That was my first mistake, treating it as a test of loyalty rather than a proposal. The next morning, Marcus brought me coffee in bed and asked, very quietly, what I'd meant. I brushed it off, but he pressed. "You think you could get close to him?" I found myself researching Adrian Vance that afternoon. 42. Married to a pediatric surgeon, 2 daughters, gave millions to charity. The photograph showed a man with Marcus's eyes but none of the bitterness. I left the browser open on Marcus's laptop, an accident that felt like a dare. He didn't get angry. He sat beside me, scrolling through Adrian's Instagram, his jaw tight. "That's his house," Marcus said, pointing at a sprawling estate, "our father's house. He got everything." Then he looked at me, really looked at me, and I saw something I'd mistaken for love but was actually a kind of hunger. "You have the right look. He has a type." I rationalized it as therapy. If Marcus could watch Adrian suffer, even a fraction of what he'd endured, maybe the screaming nightmares would stop. Maybe he'd look at me without that constant distance. I created a fake LinkedIn profile, sent Adrian a connection request citing mutual interests in contemporary art. He accepted within hours. The first consequence arrived disguised as success. Marcus grew obsessed with my progress, demanding screenshots of every message. He stopped sleeping, stopped eating, his entire focus narrowing to this one objective. I told myself this was healing. But the dramatic irony was already building. Marcus wasn't exorcising his demons, he was feeding them, and I was the offering. Section 3, First Major Revelation, 600 words. The truth bomb detonated during what was supposed to be a celebration. Adrian had invited me to a gallery opening, my supposed area of expertise, and Marcus insisted I document the entire evening with a hidden camera in my clutch. Evidence, he called it. Proof of his hypocrisy. But at the gallery, I met Adrian's wife, Elise. She was warm, intelligent, and when she learned my name, her face flickered with recognition that had nothing to do with Marcus. "Oh," she said carefully, "you're the one Marcus keeps posting about." The artist, right? I hadn't known Marcus posted about me. I checked his social media that night, public profiles I'd never seen before. They were filled with photos of me, captioned with lies about gallery shows I never had, awards I never won. A fictional life constructed in real time. Adrian had liked every single post. That's when I found the article. 5 years old, buried in local news archives. Family dispute over inheritance resolved. Adrian and Marcus weren't business rivals. They were half-brothers. Their father had left everything to Adrian because Marcus wasn't his biological son, an affair their mother had confessed on her deathbed. The red ink on those business cards wasn't professional frustration. It was blood. I confronted Marcus with shaking hands. You said he stole your company. He stole my life, Marcus corrected, his voice ice. My name, my family, my future. He knew about the affair. He kept quiet while our father built me up, promised me everything. Then he produced the paternity test like a weapon. This was the hidden action I'd buried even from myself. I'd already sent Adrian a message that morning, accepting his invitation to dinner. Alone. I'd told Marcus it was cancelled. The lie sat between us like a third person. Marcus's sister, Lena, found out first. She saw the message thread when I left my phone on the kitchen counter. You're sleeping with Adrian to help Marcus, she whispered, her face pale. Jesus Christ, do you have any idea what you're actually doing? I told her it was complicated. She told me I was the third woman Marcus had done this with. Section 4, Consequence Escalation, 750 words. Lena's revelation should have stopped everything. Instead, I dug deeper. If I was just another weapon in Marcus's arsenal, then I needed to become the one that finally hit its mark. I met Adrian for that dinner, and something unexpected happened. He asked about my art. My real art, the abandoned paintings in my mother's garage, the sketches I'd never shown anyone. He listened like Marcus never had. The consequences multiplied. Marcus demanded nightly reports, growing more agitated when I couldn't provide proof of Adrian's depravity. You're not trying hard enough, he'd say, his voice cracking. He has to want you, make him want you. So I did. I let Adrian kiss me goodnight, let his hands rest on my waist, documented the moment with a photo sent to Marcus at 2 a.m. The situation spiraled when Marcus announced his Project A documentary about the corruption of the elite, featuring my seduction as the central narrative. He'd been filming our planning sessions, my practice conversations, everything. He'd even hired a sound designer to make it more cinematic. My attempt to come clean failed spectacularly. I invited Adrian to coffee, planning to confess everything. But Marcus appeared, claiming he was my manager, steering the conversation toward Adrian's moral compromises. Adrian grew uncomfortable, mentioned his wife's charity work, and left. Marcus grabbed my arm so hard it bruised. You almost ruined 6 months of work. That's when I understood the public dimension. This wasn't private revenge anymore. Marcus was building a product, and I was both the star and the sacrifice. The worst decision came when he insisted I attend Adrian's daughter's 16th birthday party. Family events are where he lets his guard down, Marcus said, handing me a glass necklace with a hidden microphone. Get him to admit something about the inheritance. Anything. I went. I wore the microphone. I watched Adrian dance with his daughter, both of them laughing, and I felt the microphone against my chest like a confession I hadn't yet made. Section 5. The breaking point, 1,500 words. The emotional unraveling began that night, alone in my car outside the Vance estate. I listened to the playback, Adrian's voice warm and genuine, talking about his fears of being a good father, his guilt about working too much. Nothing Marcus could use. I deleted the file, then undeleted it, then sat in the dark for 3 hours wondering when I'd become someone who could be deleted so easily. My self-sabotage took the form of honesty. I stopped sending Marcus updates. I forgot to charge the microphone. I told him Adrian was getting suspicious. Marcus responded by showing me the contract he'd signed with a streaming platform, 7 figures, contingent on delivery of a complete narrative arc featuring irrefutable evidence of moral collapse. He was selling my body, my voice, my betrayal, and calling it art. At a family barbecue, another staged infiltration, I pushed away the one person offering help. Elise cornered me by the dessert table, her voice low. You don't have to do whatever Marcus has asked you to do. I know about the other women. I can help you. I recoiled, spilling punch on her dress, creating a scene. Marcus filmed the whole thing from behind the azalea bushes. Perfect, he whispered later. Now she thinks you're unstable. The near confession happened at a coffee shop. Adrian met me, concerned. Is Marcus controlling you? He asked gently. The way he's always there, the way you look at him. I opened my mouth to tell him everything, but Marcus texted me a photo of my mother's house with the message the documentary needs a final interview with family. Should I fly her in? The major confrontation came from an unexpected source. Adrian's teenage daughter, Maya, found Marcus's camera in the bathroom during the party. She was tech-savvy, 15, and suspicious. She showed her father the footage of me adjusting it, explained how to trace the feed. 3 days later, Adrian called me. "Is there a documentary being made about my family?" he asked, his voice exhausted. Marcus's support system, already just me and his delusions, crumbled when Lena went to the press. She gave a statement about her brother's pattern of psychological manipulation, naming 2 other women who'd been destroyed by similar schemes. One had attempted suicide, the other had vanished entirely. Someone got hurt in a way I couldn't fix. Maya's school found out. The documentary clips leaked me, laughing about seducing the rich asshole, my voice, my face, my complicity. She was bullied until she stopped attending classes. Her mother blamed me, and she was right. The direct question came from Adrian himself in his office, door closed. "Did you ever care about me, or was this all Marcus?" I had to answer. I chose deflection. "Marcus is your brother, he has reasons. But you're not his sister," Adrian said. "You're his weapon. The question is, did you know that when you agreed to be fired?" Section 6, The Worst Truth, revealed 1,125 words. The full confession began when Marcus showed me the final cut. We watched it in his apartment, curtains drawn. There I was, glamorous, predatory, a femme fatale in stilettos. He'd edited out my hesitation, my tears, the moments I'd told him I couldn't do it. He'd kept every time I'd said yes to his demands, every text I'd sent Adrian, every staged seduction. The documentary was called The Perfect Weapon. "This is what you wanted, right?" Marcus asked, his voice soft. "To matter, to be part of something important." The most damning detail emerged when Adrian finally confronted his brother publicly. At the press conference, he played audio recordings of his own conversations with Marcus that proved this wasn't about inheritance at all. Their father had left Marcus a trust fund, substantial but conditional. Marcus had to complete therapy, get clean from his addictions, stop stalking his ex-girlfriend. Marcus chose to interpret this as abandonment. I wasn't the third woman. I was the 5th. The others had been variations on a theme. One resembled Adrian's college girlfriend, another his former business partner. Marcus had been creating a documentary series all along, selling each chapter to different platforms under different names. I was simply the first to last long enough for a full-length feature. The truth changed everything because it revealed my real role. I wasn't his lover turned avenger. I was his co-conspirator. The microphone I'd worn, the cameras I'd placed, the lies I'd told, they were all my choices, made willingly. Marcus had given me the script, but I'd improvised the most damaging scenes all by myself. The immediate fallout was nuclear. Adrian's wife filed for divorce, citing the documentary as evidence of his emotional affair. Maya was pulled from school. Marcus's platform deal collapsed when the full extent of his manipulation came out, but I was the one who'd provided the ammunition. The last hidden element dropped when I accessed Marcus's cloud storage, the password he'd given me in what I thought was a moment of intimacy. There were folders labeled with women's names. Mine was the most recent. Inside were videos of private moments, me sleeping, me crying in the shower, me on the phone with my mother lying about how happy I was. He'd been filming our entire relationship, building a backstory for his documentary from day one. My justifications reached their peak. I was trying to protect Adrian by controlling the narrative. I told Lena when she asked why I'd gone through with it. If I was the one delivering the blow, I could soften it. Even I didn't believe me anymore. Section 7, Aftermath and Reflections, 750 words, the concrete fallout hit like shrapnel. I lost my job at the gallery. They couldn't have the documentary girl representing their artists. My mother disowned me publicly on Facebook, sharing the trailer with the comment, "That's not how I raised her." I was evicted within a week. The landlord had seen the leaked footage. Relationship consequences spiderwebbed outward. My best friend of 15 years blocked my number after Marcus sent her a clip of me saying I'd always found her husband attractive, another lie he'd edited into existence. The only person who contacted me was Adrian, and his message was simple: you need to tell the truth. Not for me, for yourself. My reputation became a public spectacle. TikTok duets dissected my seduction techniques. Twitter threads analyzed my body language, declaring me a sociopath. Instagram accounts posted side-by-side comparisons of my real face versus my weapon face. I stopped looking at mirrors. Social media turned me into a character I couldn't recognize. When I tried to post my side, The screenshots, the recordings, the truth. Marcus released clips of me laughing at Adrian's daughter, calling her spoiled. They were deep-faked, but the damage was done. The algorithm preferred villainy to victimhood. The unexpected consequence arrived via certified mail. Adrian's lawyer sent me a cease and desist, but enclosed was a personal letter. I know what he did to you because he did it to others. The difference is you have the power to stop him. The others didn't. My genuine self-awareness breakthrough was slow and painful. I realized I'd spent 3 years trying to become whatever Marcus needed because I believed that was the only way to be needed at all. I'd mistaken attention for love, a role for a relationship. In trying to save him, I drowned myself. Where I am now, I live in a studio apartment in a city where no one knows my name. I work nights at a 24-hour diner where the customers care more about coffee refills than my past. I still check Marcus's IMDb page, waiting to see if my episode gets renewed for another season. It hasn't yet. Section 8 Closing Resonance 375 words. I'm telling this story now because Marcus's documentary dropped on a major platform this morning. I'm the villain in episode 4, The Woman Who Loved Revenge. The comments section is already calling for my cancellation, my imprisonment, my public shamming. They don't know I have the real footage, the original recordings, the unedited conversations, the proof of what he made me do. Tying back to that opening confession, I said I orchestrated it, and I did. I chose to become a weapon. But weapons don't fire themselves. Marcus loaded me, aimed me, and pulled the trigger. The difference is, I'm the one who handed him the gun. What I've learned is flawed and incomplete. I know I sought love in a man who could only offer ammunition. I know I wanted to be essential so badly I became expendable. I know the line between victim and accomplice is thinner than I ever imagined, and I crossed it willingly. The moral ambiguity remains: am I responsible for the destruction I helped cause? Absolutely. Did Marcus manipulate me into that role with precision and intent? Without question. The truth is a wound that won't close because it has 2 edges. So judge me if you must. Call me names, share this story, add me to the list of terrible women who destroyed a family. But before you do, ask yourself if the person you loved, the one who knew every crack in your heart, handed you a knife and pointed it at their enemy, would you really have said no? Or would you, like me, have just sharpened the blade and asked which way to twist it?